Kaya na ba ng Pilipino na marinig ang katotohanan ng hindi mapipikon?
Negosyo o kalayaan? Bayan o sarili, pumili ka! Mabuhay ang Republika! Mabuhay! Punitin ang mga sedula nyo!
Payapaan na walang kalayaan.
Hindi sapat ang edukasyon lamang para makita ang usas.
Target! Apunte! Consumatum est!
Yo! Gulat ka, no? Kilala niyo ba sila? Alam ko, madami sa inyo. Sino nga ba namang makakalimot sa mga linyahang negosyo o kalayaan? Pahay na sarili, pumili ka. O di kaya, punitin ang mga sedula nyo. Pwede rin, huwag mo ikumpara ang sarili mo sa iba. Nag-iisa ka. O, di ba? Lalong-lalo na to. Consumatum est! So, bago ako magsimula, ako nga pala si Mr. Janllord Palima, or pwede nyo akong tawaging Mr. Ensang, kung gugustuhin nyo. So, halina't samahan akong alamin how Sir Rizal shaped the idea of nationalism for the Philippine nation.
Humihingi kayo sa Espanya ng pantay na karapatan, pero ang hinihingi ninyo ay kadena. Gusto ninyo maging mga Kastila din kayo, pero hindi nyo nakikita na ang pinapatay ninyo ay ang inyong pagkabansa.
The repressed convictions that long caused us to face the cages were seemingly bound to leave imprints of the Filipino character for centuries. Definitively speaking, our limited definition of freedom influences the belief of an escape from the clutches of unlawful systems and policies. This created the conception of liberation and freedom, both foundations and essential schools of thought for defining national identity. It is within this context that shapes the ideology for national identification, a culture represented as a separate and unique community, along with the profound tenets and principal shapes of the Filipino spirit. While the hopeful desires for a complete detachment from the oppressive Spaniards grant us the freedom to breathe within humble communities, it is an undeniable fact that we owe our contemporary civilizations to the Spaniards. Had they not come here to the Philippines, would mean that we still might have lived primitive lives. Amidst the unjust atrocious deeds of men in power are important systems of societies such as government structures, educational institutions, religion, language, and rich culture that fundamentally benefit the Philippine nation. Openly exposed to the unjust deeds at a young age, he had found his dedication to the Philippines, who had long suffered the vices and ills of her colonizers. Rizal craved the knowledge to know more about the cultures and of the Spanish, and through his travel and education, he was able to acquire essential information about Spain, particularly the difference between Spanish in the Philippines and the Spanish in Europe. He involved himself in literary publications of secret organizations that aimed to empower the Filipinos to stand against their oppressors. He is an undeniable genius born with many talents, a polyglot speaking no less than 20 languages, an artist, a musician, an athlete, an ophthalmologist, and a poet, among many other attributes. No limitang rin el filibusterismo, both most notable works of Jose Rizal are novels that primarily discloses the essence of independence and a need for establishing nationalism among its many themes. Although these novels were to empower the Philippine spirit, it was his intention for it to be written in Spanish, targeting the intellectuals with power and those who influenced them. Rizal articulates his imparting message with the satires of unsavory characters that poke to the atrocities and brutalities of the oppressive authorities. It is within this context that Rizal was able to contribute to the independence of the country, fighting not with a gun but with a pen, in a mind filled with knowledge. His works, values, passion, and regard for the country shaped the fundamental principles of the Filipino nationalism. It is therefore no less to say that both novels of Rizal awakened of Philippine nationalism, opening the eyes of his people to the explicit brutalities of its colonizers, and indirectly sparking the beginning of the revolution. His perspective of nationalism is not manipulated by emotional outbursts, but rather with carefully scrutinized policies and objectively proposed reforms that enable not only the benefit of one nation, but ultimately a congenial community for both nations to thrive, giving the Philippines more opportunity to exercise their freedom as equally as the Spaniards. His words of wisdom are what instills the voices for the Filipinos to fight their rights in their homeland. His prominent contribution with his written works, his dedication to seeking knowledge, and last but not the least, his passion for the country and its people is what makes him no short of a remarkable national hero.
Hindi na ito tungkol sa mga sarili natin, tungkol ito sa kung anong maaari nating iambag para sa lahat.
Again, I am Mr. Janllord Palima from Erik Satie 1102. Thank you for watching.